Welcome to Meeple Podcast, Season 4.
Hi there! This is time to listen to anyone different, not a player from anywhere, nor a Spanish Carcassonne fan. It's the moment for an English language meeting, a corporation interview. It's time for the new manager of Board Game Arena, Alexander Schlecht, lordalx on BGA. Welcome to Meeple Podcast.
Nice to meet you, Joaquin. I'm glad to be there to talk about Board Game Arena and answer the questions on our platform. Let me say hello to every listener of this podcast as well.
I don't know if you realize the BGA means for me on this sound channel, because thanks to the private messages, I can contact anyone for interviews. It's amazing. On the other hand, I love board games in general, but Carcassonne and Hive in particular. This special podcast is the only one about Carcassonne around the world. What do you think about BGA helping to grow the community of board games?
As a player, I'm pretty convinced that BGA is a great support for the community. I also have a couple of favorite games, and it was nice to encounter, meet, and be friends with players sharing the same passion in many countries or other continents. Players just don't join us to play games alone. They want to play with real opponents. It can be their friends or families when distance is too much. To be part of a group of players to participate in tournament also, for instance. As you mentioned, it's great also that some can get in touch with publishers or game designers directly through our platform.
Recently, Emmanuel Collin and at the end Gregory Isabelli have left the BGA team. The co-founders of their platform are in other personal projects. What do you think about these guys?
I have a lot of respect for both Gregory and Emmanuel from what they did at the very first stage, turning their initial idea into a concrete platform for players, building and taking care of a community of players, of developers. They keep in mind to have a sustainable platform and keep having their initial mindset to simply share a game with any players, to allow everyone to contribute by opening translation systems so games can be available in more than 40 languages so far. There is also the documentation they provide on the studio, the developer website, so developers can bring games more easily. I'm also very impressed regarding their effort and involvement during the pandemic, where the traffic was so high that the servers couldn't bear that much.
What's Asmodee giving to the BGA universe? I mean, the great French publisher has made an important movement for the future, but for this website's future or for Asmodee's future? What's important is Board Game Arena for Asmodee?
Since Asmodee came in, it brings many notorious licenses that are very appreciated by the players. I could mention Catan, Azul or Ticket to Ride. Some others are on their way too. Obviously, we'll keep on adding many licenses from other publishers as we always did. We now have more than 600 games available from the publisher's backend catalog and also some new releases. What really changes, and it's more related to our community size than Asmodee maybe, is that many publishers come to us to have their game published on Board Game Arena. We'll keep on chasing some licenses, but it became far easier. From Asmodee's perspective, our platform is serving all the board game industry. And so what is good for it is also good for Asmodee, which is a major actor.
Personally, you are one of the great last BGA developers. How do you reach to become the manager of Board Game Arena?
It's a bit of a long story, made of passion and opportunities. I'm 45 and I've been a tabletop player since I was a child, like many others. I played chess, HeroQuest, Abalone, to name a few. I also play video games. The fact is that several years ago, I played a specific game from Ankama publisher, a lot. It's a skirmish game where you build a team and compete on a 12 by 12 square battlefield. The game existed offline and also online on the publisher website. I played tournaments in local shops thanks to organized play, and it was great to be able to train online also. At one point, there was an agreement with Ankama to bring to Board Game Arena's community and the game itself. And from my understanding, they rely on Board Game Arena to support and maintain the service for the long term. Unfortunately, the community was not that huge. I was obviously part of it. Some bugs remained and they asked for volunteers to support them. That's where I came in, fixing bugs, adding new units. It was in 2019, if I remember well. I learned from the studio and brought on other Ankama games. From my background, I'm a software engineer and work in the aeronautical industry, so it was a side activity, just for entertainment. I really liked doing this, since it only takes a few months to bring a game and you can get the direct feedback from the community, the players, very quickly, or at least quicker than in embedded software. Things moved faster 1 year later, when Res Arcana got the Asdor in Cannes. I showed strong interest in that game and start working more regularly with Greg and Emmanuel as a volunteer developer. I didn't want to get involved alone and proposed a long-time friend to join me. His name is Benoit, as known as Darth on BGA. Together, we bring many games: Res Arcana, Splendor, Lost Explorers, Seven Wonder Architect, Living Forest, Catan, obviously, Stellar in the Dixit universe, Next Station London and Tokyo, Make a Dream, Photosynthesis. Next Station Tokyo was the last game on which I worked. During the pandemic, I applied for Board Game Arena and Greg got my full history. I had solid experience in managing people from my previous company and knew a bit of BGA, for sure, at least from the developer side. Greg told me about the future of BGA. He is a founder. His company was sold to Asmodee, and he has in mind several examples of companies who failed when their founder left. He didn't want that for BGA for sure. I had a long discussion with him to clearly understand the role and expectation, working with a team, with the community, and obviously with Asmodee. And then I decided to apply to take this role. Some of the existing team members knew me already, not all of them. Greg was very supportive, and after several interviews with the Asmodee staff, I was selected. Amazing. I officially joined BGA in January this year, and Greg helped me until June. He's still around and he proposed to summon him if I needed. He even gave me a custom spell card from Magic the Gathering to do so.
The interface of BGA is very simple for users, but many players dislike the time control, because it is the same for any kind of game, except for tournaments. Should be a customizable time like chess clocks to open an incredible opportunity for official competitions. Antonio Soler, Morgalat on BGA, an old developer on BGA, Santorini, Taluva, Takara Island, etc., told in his interview on Meeple podcast that it would be difficult to change the BGA interface, because the main part of this website is shared for all the games, and developing a new kind of time clock means to change the whole interface. What's the truth about that?
It's totally true. Greg and Emmanuel start working on BGA during their free time, and despite many architecture principles being quite good, they had constraints, and there are few things that have many dependencies with all the core part of BGA. Timers are one of them. Few things were possible, however, and during the festival we organized a real-time contest on a few games with fixed time. I mean no extra time per turn, like in BGA tournament mode, but for single games. It worked for these games, but we need to ensure it works with all the games before they bring it at a larger scale. Also, we don't want to add many settings for games that could be misunderstood by casual players. With several hundred games, changing the interface is for sure something tricky and complex. We need to ensure upward compatibility. These games are working, so we need to find the best way to improve that and still keep it as simple as possible for both existing and long-time developers.
How many people connect to the BGA website to play every day?
This is something I'm not monitoring on a daily basis. Since I'm there, I can tell that there are roughly 1 million games finished weekly and also around 1 million hours spent by our players in the same time frame. Some players can play many games per day, some others have only weekly sessions with friends or play tournaments during peak hours. We can have maybe around 20,000 of players at once. But since we also support turn-based games, opposite to real-time, some players just log in, play their moves, and disconnect. About that, there is some very useful feature on BGA that allows you to get notified on your browser, even on an Android phone, when it's your turn to play. I really use this a lot for my turn-based games.
What we pay for the premium membership program is growing year by year. However, I don't know anyone who gets out after increasing this amount. Will prices be raised next year? And what's the reason for it?
Regarding the price, we just increased the price in June, and I really don't plan to have some kind of yearly price increase. We have set the monthly fees to €5 and increased the yearly subscription from 30 to 36 euros, same in US dollars. Last price increase was in November 2021, and before that in 2016, I guess. Some long-time players still had the previous price, and it was a nightmare to work with so many prices in several currencies as well. What I want to keep as a reference is a yearly price that matches a mid-range physical game box, or even cheaper. That's where we are, and I feel it's the right place, and the yearly subscription is really valuable. At the same time, publishers are also getting revenues from their game audience, and we also have all the servers to support. We increased the team recently, and we have around 8 full-time employees, including me. The last important thing regarding premium subscription is that it grants access to all the games as well as other premium features. And you just need one premium player to create a table for your friends and family. Like in real life, all players don't need to get their own copy to play together. That's the spirit.
I suppose you have an easy way to contact the main board game publishers around the world, but at the beginning it was a difficult task. The pandemic caused BGA to grow up, and many other games came to BGA to show to anyone a great library to play. But users have taken part in it. Developers like you, testers, moderators, translators, authors of tutorials, etc. Also BGA is part of the users. And I understand the way to grow together is doing what is necessary for commercial law, agreements with publishers. But what is necessary for those who are the main customers, the players? What are you going to do to make the BGA more comfortable for players?
Our community is our greatest value. From tutorial makers, developers, gurus, translators, moderators, we really want to support and ease their way to contribute. That's why we keep on improving and bringing new stuff. We have some nice features to show soon. As part of the BGA DNA, we only show things when they are ready. One of the current issues we have is with so many games, it can be difficult to find opponents in real time for some of them. On the other end, we want to be able to bring new players on our platform. Even if it's working, when you know what you have to do, some parts are not as user-friendly as I wish. We are also working to improve the new player's journey on BGA. I have many examples of friends that suffer from not being able to join a game easily from their first attempt. At the end, bringing new players will also bring new opponents, for the existing ones. But we still want BGA to stay a safe place to play for everyone.
Please tell the audience some statistics about Board Game Arena. I asked you before about players in one day, but what about premium members? What about the number of the games in the BGA catalog? What about the number of servers around the world? I don't know, but I suppose you manage some other number of several types of parameters about Board Game Arena.
Currently, and since the pandemic, we have to duplicate game servers to support all of the running tables. This was not part of the initial architecture. We now have around 10 of those servers available to support at the moment, a bit lower than 200,000 games running at once on them. What we monitor is the number of requests per second on these game servers, to identify how busy and loaded they are. At the time being, there are more than 600 requests, many moves, per second on this server. We also rely on content delivery networks around the globe to reduce latency for static data. From the player point of view, we recently went beyond 9 million registered players. That's huge. From that, we identify a small part of regular players, and from them, around half are premium players. Since we have a lot of data from players, we also manage to identify game trends per countries. Some games are very popular in a given country and almost not played in others. There are some very specific local games, such as Tarot and Belote in France. Bang is working very well also in Italy. The Japanese community is what surprised me the most at first. They are the third country regarding their game activity on BGA. We are quite popular overseas. From the Spanish players, Catan, Azul and Carcassonne are the top played games. And just considering Carcassonne, Spain is the third community of players, just before Germans. Such data is not only available for us, but also for publishers, so they can see where their games are played.
Well, this was a short interview, but very deep from a point of view. Would you like to tell us anything important you are thinking about, or anything I didn't ask you?
Well, I'm not familiar yet with podcasts like this, so I expect I was able to bring some light and insight to our platform. I fear initially you would ask me some detailed questions regarding Carcassonne, and even if I played it in real life with my family, I'm no more familiar with the family edition to play along with my kids. Just look at my player profile on BGA, so many games I cannot play them all. At the end, as you mentioned, there are a lot of people contributing to Board Game Arena, from translators, gurus, tutorial makers, developers, and last but not least, moderators. I wish to thank each of them for all their passion that makes BGA the best place to play board game from my point of view.
The last question, no name, but will there be any other game in the next months so important for Asmodee to grow the BGA catalog? Not an usual game, but a real game with millions of people playing it on other platforms on the internet. Catan was a great example, but it's not available on BGA. Another game like Catan?
I'm pretty convinced that there are some expert games for which a turn-based mode could bring many opportunities, while some party games are really enjoyable in real time with friends and family. Without providing any name, we have the top expected title from the community displayed on the BGA front page. Not all of them could be available on BGA, but I would say that's something on which we look regularly. There are already some of those I wish we could play on BGA, as well as few others. This leads to some active discussion with their publisher, but as usual, we don't usually announce something until it's ready.
Thank you very much for accepting the invitation.
Nice to meet you, Joaquin.
To the audience, see you on the next episode.